Get out the insurance cards, get out the copays. The office is open, my friends. Brought to you by drroto.com.
What is up, and welcome into the One and Done Show. My name is Eric Romoff. You can catch me on those Twitter streets at FantasyNav, and the captain of our ship riding here to my right is none other than Mr. Mike Holland. Mike, how's it going tonight?
It's going good, man. Another day away. We get some play-in action starting tomorrow, and then we're just a few days away from complete madness, and looking forward to talking about the right side of the bracket today.
Yeah, speaking of complete madness, for those of you that haven't had a chance to watch it, we cruised through the left side of the bracket. We picked every single game, and we have Purdue awaiting the victor for the right side of the bracket here. So just like last night, going to go game by game, ultimately pick all of these winners and help you fill out the bracket. And like I mentioned at the top, going to be spending a ton of time with you guys, pushing out a bunch of content all week long as we gear up for March Madness to officially kick off. So, Mike, taking a look at the right side of the bracket here, any interesting seeding choices, any guys or teams that you think might have a bit of a smoother path to coming out of their region?
Yeah, I think I talked about it a little bit yesterday. Kansas, I think their path is probably the easiest of all the number ones. But you look at it, and this side of the bracket is loaded on defense. I mean, you got some of the best defensive teams in the country here. You're going to hear us talk a lot about their adjusted defensive efficiency a lot today. And you got teams like Arizona, Seton Hall, TCU, Houston, Villanova, Tennessee, San Diego State. I mean, these are some of the top 20 teams in the country in defense. So, definitely going to be a little bit lower scoring on this side of the bracket, but definitely some fun matchups that we're hopefully going to get here.
Man, this right side of the bracket is an absolute slugfest of defensive matchups, right? This pace is going to be slowed down. We're going to see a lot of turnovers, see a lot of low-scoring affairs. I think it sets up to be really interesting with how these two sides ultimately merge and come together. So with that, we will kick off with our 116 seed or matchup here in the South region, and we have our very first play-in game. Mike, you want to tell us a bit about Wright State and Bryant before we talk about how they're going to get whacked by Arizona?
Oh, man. So we got to give the shout outs, right, man? Wright State and Bryant playing game for the 16 seed. I mean, what else do we want here? But no, I actually think this is going to be a really fun matchup. Wright State, I mean, they got the best free throw shooter in the country in Tanner Holden. Grant Bassal is one of the best bigs in the mid-major area. And Peter Kiss is the number one scorer in the country at 25 points per game for Bryant. So this one's going to be fun to play DFS and even from a sports betting perspective. But once one of these two gets to the next opponent here, it's going to probably be a little bit of a one-sided affair here, taking on the number one seed Arizona. If I had to pick, I'm looking at Bryant here until somebody can show me they can stop Peter Kiss in the mid-major level. I mean, he's just that guy. I think he's got 10 straight games with over 30 points. So, he's going to get locked down by Arizona, though. They're fifth in adjusted offensive efficiency. They're one of the better defensive teams in the country, and they just have weapons all over the place. So just be able to cruise here.
Yeah, I mean, Bryant certainly seems like the more likely team to win that play-in game, and their reward is getting absolutely waxed by Arizona. So not a whole lot of intrigue with these 116 games, and this is going to hold form as we carry forward to the 8-9 matchup here in the South. TCU Horned Frogs are the 8 seed, Seton Hall Pirates as the 9 seed. Which side of this one do you like?
Yeah, so this is going to be one of those defensive battles that we talked about. You've got a pretty good defense here with TCU having gone through the rigors of the Big 12. Seton Hall, one of the biggest teams in the tournament. They got Obiagu who can block shots. You got Tyrese Samuel. So I don't expect this total to be very high. I'd be surprised if it got into the 130s here. But I think if you look at it from a matchup perspective, our guy here for Seton Hall, Jared Roden, just a really good scorer here. they're definitely going to have an easier time getting into the paint. Both of these teams aren't great shooting from three. TCU comes in shooting 30% from three. So the advantage there is going to go to Seton Hall. And I think, the kind of the jack of all trades here, Kadari Richmond, we saw him take over for Bryce Aiken. Very talented player, transferred in from Syracuse, kind of the lead dog now for Seton Hall running that offense. A little bit of a hand issue, but he's still showing the ability to make plays. He could wreak havoc on the defensive side. And then you just don't like the fact that TCU turns the ball over a lot, right? Almost a 22% rate here. And when you're playing a really tough defense like Seton Hall, it's just going to be for extra possessions and some easier baskets on the Seton Hall side in a game that's probably not going to be projected to be a high-scoring affair.
Yeah, especially in these slower games, right? Like you get a couple extra possessions and you got a huge edge. So like Seton Hall to carry forward here, we will cruise on to the first 5-12 matchup for the right side of the bracket, the Houston Cougars, the UAB Blazers. Mike, you blazing here for this right side, or you sticking with the Cougs?
Yeah, I mean, it's, I guess, kind of a trendier pick, even though Houston's looked really good after losing two of their better players in season. But, man, UAB, if you guys haven't seen this guy, Jelly Walker, play, he's a pretty special player. A lot of fun to watch. They love to push the pace. Houston is not going to like that. Houston wants to slow the game down. They want to limit possessions, want to run their offense 20 to 25 seconds, really wear down opponents. While UAB, I mean, these guys just want to, have some fun here, run up and down. They're 9th in 3-point percentage, so they're going to let it fly from deep. And so, yeah, this is one of those 12-5s that's really dangerous here. And I do like UAB in this one. The thing with Houston, they're 10th in offensive efficiency and 11th in defensive efficiency. However, they're a 5 seed. It just feels like a kind of a trap for them. They probably should have gotten a little bit of a higher seed having won, the American Conference here. But for me, when you don't shoot, free throws very well, they're shooting 66% from free throw. That's going to spell some problems when you play a team like UAB that's, probably a little bit better than a 12 seed here, and has one of the most explosive players in the tournament and Jordan Walker.
Yeah, it's one of those weird kind of seeding matchups, right, where both of these teams feel like they're a little bit misseeded. And specifically looking at this matchup, UAB is 9th in the country in 3-point percentage, and the Houston Cougars allow, or at least are 324th in opponent 3-point rate. So UAB chucks it in from deep really well, and they get an even greater matchup against the Cougars. So definitely like the upset here. Sticking with the South, we will move on to our 4-13 matchup. That is the 4 seed Fighting Illini and the 13th seed Chattanooga Mocs. A lot of hype out there for the Mocs, Mike. Are you buying in?
Yeah, so pod right here in particular, Houston and Illinois definitely on upset alert, right? A lot of people liking UAB and a lot of people liking Chattanooga. For me, it's just going to be tough here, right? Because Illinois comes in having Kofi Coburn, who averages 21 points and 10 rebounds. Chattanooga's going to have a really tough time stopping him. Nobody really has this year. Now, the interesting thing is our guy, Silvio De Sousa, transferred in from Kansas after that brawl last year, getting a chance for redemption here. He's 6'9", 250, so, that's one body, but Kofi's great at drawing fouls. And then the other thing, too, here is that Illinois, they're really good from three. They're shooting almost 37% from three-point range. So, just a well-balanced team where they can play inside with Kofi and they surround him with shooters like Plummer. Frazier can get it going. So it's going to be a really, really tough spot for Chattanooga. Malachi Smith on Chattanooga is, again, one of the better mid-major players here, average 20 points per game. But the problem here is that Chattanooga they just don't get to the free throw line. And Illinois, they're pretty good on defense. They're 30th in the country in defensive efficiency. So when you're not getting to the line, you're not getting those easy buckets. And then on the other side, you're getting pounded inside by Kofi. For me, I like Illinois in this matchup. I think it's going to be closer than I probably expect it to be. But overall, when I'm picking in this pot, I like the UAB matchup with Houston more than I like Chattanooga taking down Illinois.
Yeah, and you mentioned that for Chattanooga, they've got DeSalsa, right? They've got some kind of Power 5 talent on their team, but even with that, so many talented players have been left in Kofi Coburn's wake this year. So I think we see him hold serve, and ultimately the chalk advances. So that moves us on to our 6-11 matchup: the Colorado State Rams as a 6 seed, the Michigan Wolverines. First question: Juwan Howard going to be able to coach this game? I'm legitimately unaware of how the suspension plays for the tournament.
Yeah, they said regular season, so you should be ready to rock and roll here, which is going to be a boost here. Yeah, another brawl at the Palace or wherever they're playing. But yeah, it should be interesting here. So the thing on Michigan is everyone's knocking them, right? Nobody really thought they should get in. They're 17-14 on the year. A lot of people thought, Wake Forest probably deserved that spot. Some other teams that were left out probably deserve that spot as well. But that's a chip on the shoulder, right? Something that Michigan's going to come in and, really use to their advantage here. When you look at Michigan, like the thing is, obviously you've got Hunter Dickinson inside, and that's a really tough matchup for Colorado State. Man, Dickinson's just so good. Not only can he score inside, but he's actually a pretty good passer for a big man. And then really Michigan's just underperformed this year. When you look at it, like they've got some talent on their team. They are more talented than their record shows. And then for Colorado State, the thing that is really going to hurt them, especially in this matchup with Dickinson, is their 340th in offensive rebound percentage. So, they're not going to get many second chance opportunities. And then they allow a lot of threes. So, Michigan here, you've got some shooters on the outside. Eli Brooks, we saw him during the season, knock down a bunch of trays. So for me, man, this is I don't know if this is quite an upset here. I'm going to be real interested to see, how this line ends up shaking out as it draws closer to Thursday. But for me, I like Michigan and how they profile here against Colorado State.
Yeah, definitely one to keep a close eye on. And like you set up so beautifully, we will be here on the live stream on YouTube on Wednesday night talking about some of our favorite betting lines in addition to our DFS plays. So definitely one to keep an eye on with Michigan. We will mosey on over to the 3-14 matchup, the Tennessee Volunteers, the Longwood Lancers. Talked a little bit about Tennessee yesterday, that despite beating a whole heap of 1 and 2 seeds, they're sitting here at the 3 spot. So do you think that they ultimately stay hot like they did through the SEC tournament, or are you calling for another upset?
No, they're clicking on all cylinders right now. Brick Barnes, they're playing some great defense here. They're third in the country in defensive efficiency. And the thing with Tennessee is, that the three balls come to life for them on the offensive side. So when you can combine 36% 3-point shooting with lockdown defense on the other end, it's going to make you very dangerous. And we saw that in the SEC tournament. A little worrisome that they're 246th in 2-point percentage. So they're really not getting it done inside the paint. But they're making up for it from the 3-point line. And you expect, the more opportunities to get in the paint, that obviously that number will go up. And so, their profile and their trajectory is really high. Longwood, nice story, right? Big South automatic bid here. Man, they are not very big. Their average height is 6'3.5". That's almost dead last in the country. Now, Tennessee's not the biggest team, but they've got, good SEC size. Obviously, we saw them do that. And it's just not a great matchup here. And so I like Tennessee to roll, and they're probably going to be pretty heavily favored here.
Yeah, I mean, if you need to have a different way to encapsulate the benefit of, or really the downside of playing in these mid-major conferences, Longwood, despite having a bunch of dudes that are basically my height, are 24th in offensive rebounding, right? So
a little more athletic.
Yeah, just a bit, but still, to get that many boards with a bunch of short guys, I think it really speaks to the level of competition. And fair to say that they will be outclassed here up against Tennessee. So we will roll on to the 7-10 Ohio State Buckeyes, our 7th seed, our 10th seed Loyola Chicago Ramblers. Going to have another deep, surprising run by these Ramblers, or are you sticking with the chalk here in the Buckeyes?
Yeah, so I like Ohio State, man. Yeah, finished 19-11. It was a tough Big Ten conference. Put it second behind, our Big 12 here. But you look at Ohio State; they're going to have one of the best players in the tournament, right? EJ Liddell, 20 points, 8 boards, almost 3 block shots. Can really just take over games. They're 13th in offensive efficiency. They're 25th in three-point shooting. Loyola, they're going to want to obviously, slow the game down here. They're not bad from the three-point line, 38%, but they're 22nd in adjusted defense. So, we got kind of two contrasting styles here. But I think at the end of the day, you just look at it and, EJ Liddell, he's definitely good enough to take over this game and push the Buckeyes forward.
Yeah, EJ Liddell is arguably one of, if not the best player on this side of the bracket. So certainly has the ability to put the team on his back. I think it's fair to expect that to be the case here in the first round. So we will round out the South region with the number 2 seed Villanova Wildcats up against the Delaware Blue Hens. Anything to really double click on with this one, apart from a quick shout out to the Blue Hens?
Yeah, our guy Jameer Nelson Jr., right? I saw all the pictures on Twitter.
Right.
Little throwbacks to Jameer Nelson. But no, other than congratulations, Delaware. Cool name, cool hats. But yeah, you're getting an absolute dogfight here with Villanova. 8th in offensive efficiency, even though they play at one of the slowest paces. When they do get their possessions, they turn them into points. And then 28th in defensive efficiency and getting better. And then also Villanova, as we'll talk through, and this is super important come tournament time, they're 82% from the free throw line. So close games, you got to like them being able to close out the game. You worry a little bit about Villanova as far as like when they have to go against size here, but that's not something to worry about in this matchup. Definitely just looking at Villanova to, obviously advance pretty easily here.
So recapping the South, looking at the round of 32, we have the 1-8 Arizona and Seton Hall matchup. We got our first upset on the other side of that bracket, UAB, the 12 seed, and the Fighting Illini. Second upset, Michigan Wolverines and number 3 Tennessee Volunteers. And then we cap it out with the chalk, OSU and Nova for the winners of our first round here in the South. Let's keep things rolling in the first round and move over to the Midwest region. Our 1-16 is another play-in game. So we have the number 1 seed Kansas Jayhawks facing the winner of the Texas Southern Tigers and the A&M Corpus Christi Islanders. It took all of my strength and willpower not to call them the Corpus Christi Hooks, but that is a story for another day. Who do you like out of this play-in game, and how badly are they going to lose to the Jayhawks?
Oh, man. We talked about the 16 play-in earlier being a lot of fun, and I don't think this one's going to be a lot of fun. Both teams are pretty poor. They turn the ball over a ton. I don't know what else to say about this match. Texas Southern doesn't even have a guy averaging 10 points a game. They play a ton of players. They're terrible from the free throw line. Texas A&M Corpus Christi is 287th in offensive efficiency. It's kind of a miracle that we're even getting this matchup, right? So, hey, they're going to battle it out. Fans will be in the stands, and good for them, right? If I'm choosing here, Texas A&M Corpus Christi, obviously 23 wins, so they've proven they can get it done here. A little bit better as far as creating turnovers and controlling the glass. So I think that's going to kind of separate them in this matchup. But then, the profile with them moving on facing Kansas, it's not a good one. Kansas, obviously, another Big 12 title, so woohoo for them. So great job. As a Longhorn fan, you hate to see it. But overall, it's just a mismatch here. So nothing to see here. There's no Cinderella story to happen on a 16.
Well, at least you don't have to be crying about Big 12 titles as a Longhorn fan for much longer. You can be chasing down Kentucky and Tennessee in the SEC.
Lovely.
Moving on to our 8-9 seed here in the Midwest, the number 8 San Diego State Aztecs, the number 9 Creighton Blue Jays. Who you like from this matchup? Going to be a pretty close one, or you think it's going to be fairly one-sided?
Oh man, this is gonna. Cannot wait to see the over under on this game because I'm just clicking the under no matter what it's set at. You got two really really strong defensive teams here. San Diego State is number 2 in defensive efficiency. Creighton's 18th. Creighton has the big man Ryan Kalkbrenner. Can block shots. But then on the other side, San Diego State has Nathan Mensah who can block shots. So points are going to be super tough to come by. This might be the lowest scoring game of the entire tournament. So yeah, definitely an interesting style here. Points are going to be at a premium. I think for me, San Diego State's got the best scorer in this game. Matt Bradley transferred over from Cal, averaging 17 points here. Creighton lost Ryan Nimhart here, lead guard, had a really, really good season. They're turning it over to Alexander here, freshman, has had some nice games. Almost ran me down from my Mania seat, so thankfully he didn't do that. But San Diego State's going to be all over him. Creighton's going to have to try to play through the post. I'm not mad. This is basically a coin flip. We got the two Ryans for Creighton. Ryan Hawkins has played really well. I mean, we were playing him all year in DFS. He did a great job there. San Diego State, they're just going to wear these guys down, I feel like, and they're going to be able to eliminate Kalkbrenner, which is a huge part of Creighton. So I like San Diego State to just squeeze this one out, but just barely.
Yeah, and it's becoming a theme, at least on my end, looking at these defensive matchups, looking at these slower paced games, right? Like the ability to be effective in your limited number of possessions is critical to your success. And you look specifically at this matchup, you've got the San Diego State team that is 65th in the country in terms of 3-point percentage. And for those Creighton Blue Jays, they are 314th. So if the limited possession is far more likely to result in the highest scoring output, ultimately, I think that leaves us with a lot to like for the San Diego State side. So we've got them advancing, and we advance to our 5-12 matchup here in the Midwest, Iowa Hawkeyes are 5 seed, Richmond Spiders the 12 seed. Are you sticking with the trendy 12-5 upset? Are you going a little bit more chalky?
I'm not betting against Keegan Murray, at least in the first round. I mean, the kid's just been a superstar this year. I don't know how Richmond's going to defend him. No one's been able to do it in the Big Ten. I mean, basically averaged 24 points and almost 9 rebounds this year. Richmond coming off the nice A10 tournament here. But man, they're pretty solid here offensively. They do take care of the ball. The Spiders do. But at the end of the day, man, it just comes down to, are they able to stop Keegan Murray? Iowa surrounds him with shooters. So they're second in offensive efficiency, and a lot of that has to do with Murray being able to create himself, being able to take his man one-on-one, and then finding guys like Jordan Bohannon, the McCaffrey brothers here. And it's just one of those things where, we kind of talked about it with EJ Liddell. These guys are good enough to get one victory in the tournament and maybe even more. So these are some of the best players in the country, not just in the Big Ten. So I expect big things out of Murray, and I think it's just going to be too much for the Spiders.
Yeah, potential lottery pick there in Murray. So a lot to overcome for the Richmond Spiders coming out of the mid-major. So no shame in bouncing out there. We bounce over to our 4-13 matchup, the Providence Friars, the South Dakota State Jackrabbits. How you see this one shaking out, Mike?
All right, here we go, man. 13 taking down a 4 here. Both teams going in opposite directions. Providence got absolutely smashed in the Big East tournament, and they just haven't been playing that great here. I mean, they're 25-5, right? So it's kind of hard. How do they say they're not playing great? But their KenPom metric is closer to the 50s. And then you look at South Dakota State, like, man, first at 3-point percentage, 44% from 3, which kind of makes up for their, 220th in adjusted defensive efficiency. But the thing with Providence is they're just, they just kind of struggle at times to put points on the board. You look at Douglas Wilson and Baylor Shireman on the South Dakota State side, very experienced guys, can really score the ball. So for me, I think this is an upset. I just like the way they can spread the floor and create things.
Yeah, and for the Providence side, right, very poor in kind of those additional opportunity categories. 315th in opponent turnover rate, 263rd in opponent block rate. So not really getting very many extra possessions. So definitely like to ride the momentum of the South Dakota State Jackrabbits as our first upset here in the Midwest. So that will take us to the bottom half of this region. Kicking us off is the number 6 seed LSU Tigers going up against the 11 seed, which is the Iowa State Cyclones. How you see this one shaking out?
Another absolute defensive slugfest here. LSU comes in at one point they were first in defensive efficiency. Now they're fifth. And then also in the top 10 is Iowa State. So another low-scoring game, definitely going to challenge the Creighton-San Diego State game for a total here. But I think, when you really break it down, Iowa State's got really one guy that can kind of do his thing here, which is Isaiah Brockington. A great season this year for them. They kind of stumbled after that fast start to the year. Barely limped their way in here to the tournament. I think for LSU, man, it's just the two bigs, man. Tari Easton and Darius Days. We played a lot of them in DFS, and they've just been a real tough cover for a lot of teams. They're not great from three as a team. But I think what they're doing on the defensive side is pretty special. They're creating a ton of turnovers. And then, you got these two guys that can absolutely just take over a game. And Iowa State's a little bit weaker on the inside. So it's definitely going to be a tough challenge for Iowa State to kind of contain not just one of these guys, but both of them. So I do like LSU to move on here.
Yeah, I mean, another defensive slugfest. LSU is second in the nation in opponent turnover, and Iowa State turns the ball over a ton, right? So going to be seeing the Tigers getting a bunch of additional possessions, and that will have them advancing out of the first round, which takes us to our 3-14 tilt. Number 3 seed Wisconsin Badgers, number 14 seed Colgate Raiders. Another interesting seeding here for the Wisconsin Badgers. I don't know if you want to kick off with your thoughts on whether or not they kind of fit cleanly here as a 3 seed, or if you want to just jump straight into how this matchup unfolds.
Yeah, so there was a talk right for the Big Ten tournament that they would challenge for a 1 seed. A little stumble here at the end. For me, Colgate's probably one of the trendier picks for an upset here as far as the 3 seeds go. I mean, they're great from 3. They're just behind South Dakota State in three-point shooting at 40% from 3. I think when you really break it down here, it's really just going to come down to Wisconsin and who's going to stop Johnny Davis. I mean, the guy's just been absolutely spectacular this year. This side of the right side of the brackets, man, they're just full of the guys that can absolutely just take over games. You can put him into that category of Keegan Murray. You can put him in the category of EJ Liddell. I mean, the guy is just absolutely dominant. 20 points per game, 8 rebounds. Just can do a lot of different things. They surround him with some good pieces. Brad Davison, it feels like he's been there for 15 years. Really good shooter. And then Tyler Wall's really come on this year for Wisconsin. So that's going to be really tough for Colgate defensively. They're 203rd in defensive efficiency, which is one of the worst in the tournament. So yeah, for me, it's just a little bit too much. Johnny Davis and his other guys running with him here, to really consider them as I know a lot of people are talking about Colgate as a potential upset here.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of things are going to have to go right if you want to slow down Johnny Davis in this tournament, and defensive efficiency is a point of weakness for Colgate. So definitely like the Badgers to move on. As we move on to our 7-10 matchup, number 7 USC Trojans, number 10 Miami Hurricanes. Interesting matchup with this one, right? Kind of big interior play for the Trojans, a little more of the outside guard play for Miami. Curious to know how you see this one shaking out.
Yeah, this one's going to be fun, man. We talk about all these defensive matchups. I feel like, this one we're going to get some up and down, some easier buckets in this one. Like I said, USC liking to play big. Isaiah Mobley, obviously brother of Evan Mobley, had a really great season this year. You got Drew Peterson, who really big guard, that can do a lot of different things in the post and running your offense. And then you look at Miami, it's a heavy guard attack. It's really, really tough here not to want to pick Miami. I think they'll be a trendier pick as a 10 because they're gonna challenge USC here. So this is going to be a great game. I think when it comes down to it, though, you look at it here and, man, Miami just struggles with the opponent field goal percentage, right? They're allowing opponents to shoot almost 53%. And you look at USC, they're in the top 50 in defensive efficiency. So when this game comes down to the end and you're needing to get a stop, I trust USC more. And then obviously in DFS purposes, you kind of relate this, as you go through the tournament, you're making your picks. It's like, well, what is the one thing we kind of did most of the year, right? We we took bigs against Miami, and they just seem to, not have that interior presence. They like to basically play two like 6-7 forwards that can kind of spread the floor. They're going to have just a tough time, obviously, with Mobley in the middle. So I like the USC to squeak this one out, but, it wouldn't be surprising to see one of these Miami guards go off here.
Yeah, super close game overall, right? If Miami is able to shoot kind of at or above their season average from three, obviously that works to offset the inflated opponent field goal percentage from the interior. But ultimately, I mean, those shots are harder to make, right? So could very much so go either way. I definitely like the call on USC. And that brings us to our last matchup of the first round, our 2-15 tilt. The number 2 Auburn Tigers, the number 15 Jacksonville State Gamecocks. Anything to like here with the Gamecocks, or just a quick attaboy and we move on?
Yeah, a little attaboy. And how many block shots is Walker Kessler going to have in this matchup?
I would put the over under at 3.5.
I'll take the over. Not much to see here. Well, Auburn's just, they're so good. I know they, kind of struggled there towards the end, but man, just overall fantastic season. And looking forward to some of these other matchups we're going to have them going in.
So recapping the first round here in the Midwest, we have the 1-8 advancing Kansas and San Diego State. Other side of their bracket is a 5-13 matchup between Iowa and South Dakota State. 6-3 kicks us off for the bottom side of this bracket, LSU and Wisconsin, and 7-2 or 2-7 Auburn and USC there at the bottom. So we have gone all the way through our first round. We can jump back up to the South, and this is where things really start to get interesting, right? Obviously, significantly more difficult matchup here in the second round as we see the number 1 Arizona Wildcats and the number 9 Seton Hall Pirates. How you see this one playing out?
Yeah, this is a tough matchup. Seton Hall is long, athletic. We talked about that in their matchup with TCU. We like that advantage there. But guess what? Arizona can play pretty much any style of basketball. They have Christian Coloco, the big man who dominated the glass and the paint there in the last game against UCLA. You can play through Azolas Tubelis, another 6'11" guy that can stretch the floor and get, just do different things on the court. The thing with me is Arizona just doesn't have a lot of weaknesses, right? And then you look at Seton Hall, it's like, man, what are their weaknesses, right? Well, they struggle from 2-point, basically in the paint. They shoot 46% from the 2-point range. So that's 312th in the country. They're 281st in effective field goal percentage. So they're just not getting quality shots, and they're having trouble, converting inside three. And so you're not going to get the easy buckets here. Arizona's not going to make it easy for you, especially when you got the shot blocker patrolling the paint. Seton Hall's bigs. I mean, they're just there to really block shots on the other end. They're not too much of a factor on the offensive end. So Arizona's two-way game should be more than enough to handle Seton Hall here.
So meant to ask you in the first round, do you think we see Kriisa play in the round of 64?
Yeah, I don't think they need to play him. Justin Kier can easily fill in there. Pele Larson, they filled in admirably in that win against UCLA to win the Pac-12 championship. So no, I don't think they're going to rush him in. Obviously, if he's good to go, they'll probably play him some limited minutes here, but there's no reason to really rush him out there against the 16. But yeah, they should be able to take Seton Hall down without Kriisa as well. But obviously, he's a huge factor because he can stretch the floor. Really spread out the bigs for Seton Hall. So, he would definitely be a factor, but they're just so talented and their bench is so good that, even if you were to miss, I definitely don't think that would be the end of their tournament run. But I think moving forward past that, he's probably going to need to be a factor.
Yeah, health is always something to keep an eye on, and as much rest as they can get that dude as possible. I don't know if you saw the pictures out there on Twitter, but dude's leg is looking rowdy right now. So if they can get him a couple more games of rest, should have him pretty healthy for the Sweet 16, which is where you have them advancing. The other side of this bracket, we have the 4-12 matchup. Number 4 fighting the Illini, number 12 UAB Blazers. Mentioned that UAB is a trendy pick. They're potentially misseeded. Do you see the run continuing here for the Blazers, or are we sticking on the Kofi Coburn break?
Yeah, I mean, I love UAB, right? Obviously, we picked him in the first round here with the upset over Houston. Man, the thing is, how are they going to guard Kofi, man? That's one of the key questions to beating Illinois. Illinois at that 4 is super dangerous. They're kind of like UCLA on the other side, where they probably didn't have the season that people predicted. Curbelo just, it seems like, I don't know if he's just going to be, fully healthy and back from, injury. So he looked pretty good in the tournament. Still getting limited minutes here. He would be a game changer, and it would be a potential 1 or 2 seed if he was fully healthy this year. So for me, it's just too much shooting, too much Kofi on the inside. Jordan Walker, it's going to be really tough for these guys to come up with a win over a Houston and an Illinois squad. So I think I'm picking Kofi here and moving on.
And what to do about Kofi is a puzzle that not very many teams have put together. So we've got Illinois moving on to face off against Zona. Moving down to the bottom side of this bracket, we have our 3-11 matchup, another pairing that includes an upset from the first round. Number 3 seed, Tennessee Volunteers. Number 11, Michigan Wolverines. Does the magic continue for these Wolverines, or is Tennessee going to play up to their SEC title capabilities?
Yeah. So for me, I think this matchup is definitely going to be a fun one. How does Tennessee guard Hunter Dickinson in this matchup? Something to watch for. If they're able to limit him, they should have a pretty easy time. Man, there's just so many things that Chandler and Vescovi can do in the backcourt for Tennessee. Chandler's an awesome guard. If you haven't had a chance to watch him play, definitely going to be an NBA player here. And the thing is, Jordan Josiah James for Tennessee has really come on. With the injuries that they've kind of sustained this year, and really been that third guy to go with them in the starting lineup. And then their bench, Zakai Siegler. I mean, he just came out of nowhere, just really flashed this year. He's going to be a really important piece in the tournament for them. I think it's just a little too much a depth there. Tennessee's going to be able to wear down Dickinson, and I think the problem with with Michigan is they like to obviously they turn the ball over and they don't create many turnovers, so that's a problem when you play Tennessee.
Yeah, very much so. And looking at this matchup specifically, we've got the Michigan Wolverines allowing opponents to shoot almost 51% from the field on 2-pointers, so that should give a nice little boost for this Tennessee offense, and should find them advancing to the next round, where they will face the winner of our 2-7 matchup, Villanova Wildcats, Ohio State Buckeyes. EJ Liddell's keeping it rolling, or are we sticking with the veteran guard play of Villanova?
Yeah, man. So it's something we talk about every year, right? Guard play. That's the thing with Villanova, right? This is the reason why Gillespie came back after the injury last year. Just doing everything on the court, man. Him and Justin Moore, a dynamic guard duo here. Man, it's going to be a little bit too much. OSU is a one-man show. Would I be surprised if EJ Liddell took over? Absolutely. But Jay Wright's a great defensive coach. I expect him to game plan to stop EJ Liddell. And I expect him to make, a young guy like Malachi Branham and some of these other guys like Jamari Wheeler to hit open shots and be able to create themselves. And I just don't know if that they have enough firepower to do that. You look at it, Villanova's just a well-balanced team, and you just got to like the combination of Moore and Gillespie in this matchup.
Yeah, we talked about it a fair bit in the breakdown of the left side of the bracket, but ultimately OSU is kind of single-threaded, right? They don't have a whole lot of outs in terms of how they can win games if Liddell is slowed down, if he gets into foul trouble, whatever it might be. So definitely like Nova carrying forward, and despite having 2 upsets carrying on to the second round, our Sweet 16 out of the South region is nice and chalky. 1, 2, 3, 4, or I should say 1, 4, 2, 3. So we will scroll on down to the Midwest. Our first matchup there in the second round, number 1 seed Kansas, number 8 seed San Diego State. How's this one shake out for you, Mike?
Yeah, so obviously the first challenge that Kansas is going to get, a really tough defensive team, San Diego State. We talked about that, second in defensive efficiency. They're going to get the 6th rated offense here with Kansas. With Remy Martin coming back for Kansas, playing really well the last couple of games here. If you guys don't haven't followed him. A dynamic scorer transferred in from Arizona State, was first team All Pac-12 and preseason Player of the Year for the Big 12 this year. Struggled with injury, getting him back and him coming off the bench. I mean, come on, it just makes Kansas very dangerous. And I think the thing is here, Mensah, probably going to have a really tough time with the big man McCormick down low. Mensah's not much of an offensive player, more of a defensive shot blocker. So McCormick's going to be able to kind of camp out in the lane, should help Kansas out defensively. There's just a lot of shooters on Kansas and a lot of ways for them to create baskets. San Diego State, it's really about, our guy Matt Bradley here. Unless he gets, one of these guys like Pulliam to run with him, it's going to be really tough for them to score enough points to stay with Kansas here.
Yeah, I mean, Kansas is a super efficient team overall, right? And they are playing this kind of shorter rotation throughout most of the year, which typically mimics how these games unfold once we get to tournament time. So definitely like them to carry forward. We carry forward to our 5-13 matchup. Number 5 Iowa Hawkeyes, number 13 South Dakota State Jackrabbits. Cinderella keeper slipper on here, or are we sticking with Keegan Murray?
Let's get the shoe and make it fit. We're going past midnight. Give me the Jackrabbits. This game, if we get this game, there's going to be so many points scored. So many points.
What do you think, like a 148 over under? Something like that?
Yeah, somewhere around there, definitely. But yeah, it's just one of those things where, the thing about San Diego State, man, when that 3-point ball travels, man. So just really like them to come through here.
Yeah, I mean, when you're putting it in almost 45% from down deep, I mean, those extra points in terms of scoring productivity really add up. So we will keep the Cinderella dancing, and we will keep moving here in the Midwest. Our next matchup, the number 3 Wisconsin Badgers, the number 6 LSU Tigers. Which side of this matchup do you like, Mike?
I like who are we going to go with here? Sorry, I got something in my throat here, so hold on one second.
I also get a little bit emotional thinking about this matchup in particular. 6-3 is always an interesting second round tilt. Looking at the Badgers coming out of the Big Ten, LSU facing their own set of trials and tribulations with their head coach departing, so does introduce a bit of chaos to this game overall. Do you see that as maybe something that works against them here in the tournament, or do you think they're going to be able to rise up and overcome?
No, I like them to rise up and overcome. So definitely the matchup here with Wisconsin, they got to stop Johnny Davis, right? As I sound like I'm going through middle school puberty here. But if any team can do it, I think it's LSU.
Yeah, I mean, this LSU Tigers team, right? Absolutely stoppers on the defensive side, turn over the ball left and right. These defensive matchups, those couple of extra possessions go a long, long way. So we have number 6 LSU carrying forward. That carries us forward to the last of the second round matchups for the Midwest. Number 2 Auburn Tigers, number 7 USC Trojans. Sounds like USC is going to squeak by Miami to get here to the second round. Do you see them doing the same against Auburn, or are we going to see Kessler ultimately hold court and dominate down low?
Yeah, so we talked about the advantage that Mobley's going to have right in the Miami game. That advantage is gone. You got Kessler and Jabari Smith. Yeah, dynamic duo front court. They're not going to be able to slow these guys down. The thing with me is that Auburn is just so good defensively, being able to protect the paint. They don't do as much offensively from 3 as you would like to see, but why do that when you have, someone like Jabari Smith who can absolutely take over a game, and you can dump it down into Walker Kessler. And then Wendell Green's just been really good this year. I don't know if Boogie Ellis is going to want to face that matchup for 30 minutes. Definitely a guy that can score, create for others, and Auburn should be able to cruise here in this matchup.
They certainly should. And while we were nice and chalky for the top half of the right side of the bracket, little spicy here. Moving on to the Sweet 16 in the Midwest, we've got a 1-13 with Kansas and San Diego State. We have a 2-6 with Auburn and LSU. So that brings us to our Sweet 16 matchups as we move back to the South region. our first all chalk matchup. Number 1 Arizona, number 4 Fighting Illini. Does the Kofi Cockburn ride ultimately stop here, or are we going to see him mount the upset against this Arizona team?
Yes, we saw this matchup earlier this year. Man, Koloko is not having a lot of fun guarding Kofi. But the thing is, you can throw Ballo in there from Gonzaga, another really good big that can. I mean, you're not going to stop Kofi, right? He averaged 21 and 10 this year, so I mean, you just got to try to limit him. And I think overall, what it comes down for me is Benedict Mathurin and what he does. What he does in the tournament determines Arizona's fate, right? We saw what he did against UCLA, really took over the game. I mean, he can do so many things. Definitely going to be an NBA player. I just think there's just so many weapons for Arizona. And I think they're going to be able to limit what Illinois wants to do. So definitely like Arizona here.
Yeah, and you look at this Illinois side, right? Like Kofi Cockburn is obviously a tremendous talent for this Fighting Illini team. But on the whole, this team's not getting a whole lot of extra possessions, right? They don't get very many blocks, 263rd in the league. They don't get very many steals, 307th in the league. So ultimately, if they find a way to slow down Cockburn, if they find a way to get him into kind of an off night or get him out of rhythm for shooting, they're not going to get a whole lot of additional opportunities. And that is ultimately going to find them on the outside looking in of the Elite Eight after a fantastic run to the Sweet 16. Bottom side of the South region here, number 2 Villanova, number 3 Tennessee Volunteers. Tennessee ultimately live up to that snub of their seeding, or do we see the veteran guard presence prevail yet again?
Yeah, I really like this matchup, right? It's going to be really defensive oriented. I think, some great guard play here. You got Chandler and Vescovi going to be matching up against Gillespie and Moore. Going to be a great defensive effort here. Probably going to be more defense than me defending whatever tickles in my throat right now. But I think overall, for me, it's just, man, it's just when you get to this time of the year, we keep saying it, right? Villanova is just so good defensively. Tennessee is too. But the thing is that I trust the ball in the hands of Colin Gillespie and him to make the right plays at the end of the game. But I definitely think this is a coin flip here. For me, I'm just going based on previous history, Jay Wright's ability to, really get it done. And then when you look at it overall, it's like, does Tennessee, they don't really have anything inside that can really challenge Villanova. Fulkerson's a nice piece, been there a long time, but he's not someone that they're going to dump it down to, play through the post, and that's really where you have to hurt Villanova. They play small. Eric Dixon is only 6'7". So, in order to beat Villanova, and I think they got a really nice draw. There's nobody really on their side of the pod that, other than maybe a Hunter Dickinson, but they would have to obviously win a few games. Michigan would. There's not really another big that can really dominate the game. I know Liddell can, but he's more of a stretch big. What you need someone that can really pound it in the post and really create some offense, open up some spots for shooters. And that's just not really something Tennessee does. Tennessee relies on defense just like Villanova. And, even though the metrics are, kind of favor Tennessee as a better defense, I think, just overall what Villanova's done in the past, you just kind of trust Jay right here to make it happen.
Yeah, the thing for me in this defensive matchup, right, like both teams are going to spend a lot of time at the charity stripe. And you look at these two teams, Villanova is number 1 in the country at free throw rate, putting almost 83% of their free throws in. And Tennessee is all the way down at 203rd, right? So both of these teams should see a lot of action at the charity stripe. But if Villanova is going to put it in considerably more than Tennessee, that should be enough to put them over the top. And that solidifies our Elite Eight matchup. Number 1, Arizona, number 2, Villanova, nice and chalky, advancing here out of the South. That moves us down to the Sweet 16, our 2 matchups in the Midwest. Kicking us off, number 1, Kansas Jayhawks, number 13, South Dakota State. Are we turning back into a pumpkin?
I think it ends right here, man.
Pumpkin time.
This is a little bit tougher here. For me, it's, Kansas 29th in defensive efficiency. You're going to be able to lock down some of these shooters from the outside. This is a game that kind of profiles where Kansas is going to run out, their 4-guard look, put our guy McCormick in the middle. He's going to be able to do some damage here. Really should be able to control the glass. And yeah, it's just one of those things that at the end of the day, South Dakota is what are they 220th in defensive efficiency. The Cinderella story is going to end here. I just think there's just too much brawn here for Kansas. Too much Abaji. These guys can score on anybody, and they don't have trouble scoring on people. So. This could be one of the higher scoring games of the of the tournament if it's able to make it to this point. So, Kansas is in a really good spot here. So definitely like their path to the through the tournament so far.
Yeah, I mean, hell of a run for South Dakota State here, but ultimately, it leaves them bumping up against one of the blue blood programs here in the NCAA men's game. So Kansas moving on to face the winner of our 2-6 matchup, number 2 Auburn Tigers, number 6 LSU Tigers, and an SEC rematch here in the Sweet 16. How do you see this one shaking out?
Yeah, I think kind of an LSU Band of Brothers story ends right here. It's just what's the one thing that can hurt LSU is going to be two bigs, and being able to eliminate Easton and Days is definitely going to be Smith and Walker Kessler. For me, I just don't think LSU has enough offense to really handle what Auburn can throw at them. Auburn's going to essentially play to the post right here. LSU's going to struggle to defend that. So do like LSU in the first couple of matchups here, just with their ability to shut those teams down. But this matchup, I don't think they're going to be able to shut down Auburn. And at the end of the day, it's just really tough for a team like an LSU to be 304th in turnover percentage and not be able to shoot it from deep, to really rely on just like one or two guys to try to carry them, even though they're one of the more dynamic duos on the entire tournament.
Yeah, I mean, you've just got to be hyper efficient, right? Like if you're not going to be able to score the ball from deep, if you're going to turn the ball over a lot, basically every time that you're in offense, you have to be able to convert for two. And this matchup against Kessler and against Smith is certainly the type of environment that is going to stymie those bigs for the LSU Tigers. So we have Tigers of Auburn carrying forward to face the number 1 seed. Another 1-2 here out of the Midwest, Kansas and Auburn, which brings us back to the South to break down the 1-2 matchup from that region. Number 1 Arizona, number 2 Villanova. This is going to be an absolutely fantastic game if we see it play out. I know chalk can be a little bit boring, but it does make for some incredible matchups as we get deeper into the tournament. Where you like this one to ultimately unfold, Mike?
Yeah, so I think as we talk through the right side of the bracket, there's a lot of really good upset opportunity in the first round. But I think once you kind of get through that, these teams are so good defensively that I think a lot of the chalk's going to carry through here. For me, we just talked about Villanova getting through Tennessee, they can't really pay through the post. Well, that's something Arizona can do. They can dump it into Tubelis. They can run screen and roll with Koloko down low. He's going to have a huge size advantage there, be able to throw that lob all day. And then obviously Matherin can create his own shot. We'll see what happens with Krisa. But defensively, Arizona's no slouch here. They're going to be able to keep up with Villanova, who likes to kind of play a one-on-one style game. You really like to see Gillespie and more, maybe do a little bit more assist-wise. 225th in assist rate as a team. So when you play an Arizona team, the key to it is going to be ball movement, right? You gotta spread out those bigs. You got to get those guys moving around, make them work on the defensive end, so that way offensively you can slow them down. So definitely not a great matchup here. I do like Arizona in this one.
So is this a point in the tournament where Arizona almost certainly needs to have Krisa back in order to advance past Nova, or do you think they can do it on the backs of their other guys if he's unavailable?
Yeah, I think they're still good here. I mean, he gives them that 3-point ball. I think in this particular matchup, you're not really going to need that. You just got to be able to play through the post and be able to toss those lobs up to Koloko, and then it's just going to be tough for them to get scored on by Villanova. So, I don't know. It depends on the matchup, right? Krisa, if you need to score, which this isn't looking like a side of the bracket where you're going to need to score a ton of points. So that's kind of the reason why I love Arizona on this side of the bracket.
Yeah, a lot of upside if he can get healthy and get in there, but certainly going to see a lot of slugfests, and this Arizona Wildcats team has the pieces to play that style of game. So that moves us to our second elite 8 matchup here in the Midwest. Number 1, Kansas. Number 2, Auburn Tigers. Again, 2 fantastic teams, 2 fantastic seasons. Should be an absolutely amazing game to watch play out. How's this one unfold? Who do you like to advance to the Final Four?
Yeah, I mean, here it's a case of what's McCormick going to do for Kansas, right? We've seen it all year. Is he going to be McCormick that absolutely dominates, or is he going to be the McCormick that completely disappears? You're going to need him in this matchup. Auburn has the guards, Katie Johnson and Wendell Green to score here, but they have the bigs to go with it. And Kansas, in order for them to have a successful tournament run, to make that Final Four, to get to that Elite Eight, David McCormick is a huge, huge piece. Baji's a great scorer. Braun can do a lot of different things for them. But I think when it comes down to it, man, it's just going to be really tough to get Walker Kessler into foul trouble, to, slow down Katie Johnson, who's a microwave. He dropped 25 on you. Wendell Green's running around creating havoc. Jabari Smith, I mean, he's top 3 NBA pick here. There's just so many weapons and so many ways that Auburn can hurt you, where if McCormick's out of the game for Kansas, man, it just kind of limits their ceiling and what they can do, especially if they, this tournament, it's weird. We talk about guard play all the time, but a lot of these teams that we like here is kind of bringing back the traditional, the big men here. So I really like a lot of the teams with bigs. Obviously, we have Purdue in the final. And we're liking Auburn right now, and it looks like we're gonna get the Auburn matchup with with our guys from Arizona. So definitely liking the talented front courts to advance, even though guard play is kind of one thing that most people lean on. But these teams don't have poor guard play, that's for sure.
Yeah, the thing for me in this matchup specifically, you talked about this Auburn front court. Jabari Smith, Walker Kessler have been absolutely dominating all year long. And facing off against the number 1 ranked Kansas Jayhawks, they got a team that is 209th in opponent offensive rebounds, right? So these big men are going to be able to clean up their own glass, get putbacks, get second chance points, and that's going to be a bit too much to overcome. And that leaves us with our Final Four matchup set. Number 1, Arizona Wildcats. Number 2, Auburn Tigers. How does this one play out? Who's going to go face off against Purdue?
Man, I would love to go see this game live, right? Auburn and and Arizona, man, so talented all the way, up and down the roster here. So what do we do here, right? I like Arizona, man. They're just so good, can play so many different ways. If you get Kirk Risa here, he would be needed in this matchup to kind of stretch the floor, get Walker Kessler out on that high screen and roll. He would definitely be a difference maker here. If he's not in this matchup, Benedict Matherin's going to have a monster game. And then it really comes down to what's going to happen in that matchup between Koloko and Walker Kessler, right? I mean, that is, you pay to see that type of atmosphere. And that's why this is, obviously a Final Four spot here. So for me, I just think that overall Arizona is just so good, so well-rounded, can win in a bunch of different ways here. And Auburn, we've seen it, right? They can go through some lulls here or there. Jabari Smith's still a freshman, so, how's the tournament pressure? How's he going to handle that? Walker Kessler just kind of burst onto the scene after transferring from UNC. So, how are these guys going to handle, the ultimate pressure? We saw, kind of what happened when they lost some focus in the SEC tournament. Obviously, their talent should be able to carry them pretty far in this tournament. When you face a team like Arizona, man, you got to be hitting on all cylinders. And for me, it's just one of those things where there's just too many weapons on Arizona to try to stop all at once.
Yeah, especially if you see Krisa come back at this point, right? Like, such a dynamic player, really changes the makeup of this matchup overall. So I think by this point, I mean, for my money, I think he's probably going to be available and mostly back to full health somewhere around the Elite Eight round. So once we get to this Final Four matchup, like him to come in and really leave his imprint on this game. And that leaves us with our championship game all squared away. Number 1, Arizona coming out of the right side of the bracket in the South region. Number 3, Purdue coming out of the left side of the bracket in the East region. Who's your champion for the NCAA tournament in 2022?
You're going to have to go with the Arizona Wildcats. We talked all yesterday about, obviously, how do you stop the big men from Purdue? Well, you got Koloko, Tavelis, and Balo, right? Kind of what we talked about with the Auburn matchup. They match up pretty well with, any big tandem in the country. And obviously, who can help offset Jaden Ivey? Well, Benedict Matherin's a really good defensive player. Dalen Terry is not a slouch either. Arizona's just the best two-way team in the country. This would be an absolute thriller here. God, I really want this matchup to happen. It'd be a lot of fun. But you take a look at it, and what's the common theme that we see right now? And it's the bigs, right? I mean, if you look at the Final Four, we're projecting 7 of the 8 bigs in that game are I've been doing it all year and getting it done. So Mark Williams is no slouch for Duke. You got the 2 bigs with Arizona, the 2 bigs with Purdue, the Auburn bigs. So to me, it comes down to what guards are going to be able to handle this in the Final Four, right? I trust Matherin. I've seen him ball out here recently, can really take over games. We talked about Kriisa. If he's in, opens up that outside shot for Arizona. Dalen Terry can do everything. They're number 1 in assist rate, so they share the ball. It's just tough for defenses to key in on them. And then they got the bigs to come in. Ballo can come in, take some fouls. Koloko gets into foul trouble, or if Tabelis gets into foul trouble, Ballo's no slouch. He can give you 20 really good minutes. Played on that Gonzaga team last year, although he didn't get very many minutes. I mean, he was practicing against Drew Timme every day. So definitely, we've seen him, in his limited minutes, really kind of break out this year as a really nice role player. And then the bench, man, you got to have depth in the tournament. You look at Arizona, and they do have the depth to get it done. So definitely be a great matchup if we get these 2 teams in it. But I think Arizona by far is the team to beat this year.
Yeah, I mean, look, Arizona is a 1 seed for a reason, and they are just absolutely loaded top to bottom, not only in their starting 5, but also that rotation and that depth coming off the bench. So admirable run for the Boilermakers to make it to the championship game as a 3 seed, but sticking with the chalk here, and for good reason, right? This Arizona team has been doing it all year, and they've got so many outs, right? There's so many different ways that they can beat you. So like to prioritize that anytime that we are filling out our bracket. And with that, our bracket is filled out. We have picked all of these games through the left side, through the right side, all 4 of the regions. Stick with us here through the rest of the week. We are going to be coming to you every single day until the tournament kicks off. We're going to be spending a little bit of time talking about teams that are on upset alert, not only double-clicking on the upsets that we have picked in this bracket so far, but also talking about some teams that maybe can squeak away with an upset that we haven't quite called for just yet. So we're going through that. And then as we head into Wednesday night, looking at not only our DFS builds and riding shotgun as Mike builds out his Mania Madness squads, but also looking at some of our favorite betting and props lines. So definitely make it a point to stick and stay with us here at One and Done. We will be streaming all week long. We'll be helping you get that W and get that bread.
Thanks for stopping by the office. Get your fantasy prescription by subscribing to the channel and checking out drroto.com. And until the next visit, be well and take care.